So students, today we will learn Urison's lemma. It's a very lengthy lemma, but I'm going to give you a very simple proof of this lemma. First, for Urison lemma, we need one more definition, that is dyadic fraction. Dyadic fraction is a number of type 2m minus 1 upon 2 raised to power n, such that this number belongs to 0, 1, where this is called dyadic fraction, where mn belongs to natural numbers. So if we take various values of mn, then we will have such type of the number where the base is 2 raised to power n and numerator is odd number. And this d, capital D, denote the set of all dyadic fractions. So all such fractions, set of all such fractions is denoted by D, and this set is such that its closure is 0, 1. So it is dense in 0, 1. Like rational numbers, it is also dense in this interval. Now, the statement of Urison's lemma. A space X tau is normal space if and only if for all closed sets A and B such that A intersection B is empty set, there exists a continuous mapping f from x to 0, 1 such that f of A is mapped on 0 and f of B is mapped on 1. So if a space is normal space, then for all closed sets A and B, we can define a continuous mapping from x to 0, 1 such that one closed set, it will be mapped on 0 and other closed set will be mapped on 1, and vice versa. So first of all, we will assume that such function exists. We will show that space is normal. So first, let for all disjoint closed sets A and B, there exists a continuous map f from x to 0, 1 such that one closed set is mapped on 0 and another closed set is mapped on 1. We have to show that x is normal. To prove x is normal, we need to show that for any two closed sets A and B in X, disjoint closed sets, there will be two open sets. One open set will contain closed set A and another open set will contain closed set B, such that those open set will be disjoint. So we need to prove this. Let A and B be two disjoint closed sets in X. Now, these minus infinity to half and half to infinity are two base elements in R. We are actually using we will find, first of all, find base elements in 0, 1. As function is continuous, so open sets in 0, 1 will be inverse image of open sets in 0, 1 will be open in X, because f is continuous. We will use this property of the continuous function. So let first of all, in R, these are two base elements. When we take intersection of base elements of R with 0, 1, we'll have corresponding base elements in 0, 1. So their intersection will give this element. So this will be the base element in 0, 1. Similarly, taking this intersection with 0, 1 will give half to 1. There will be 1. So this will be the base element in 0, 1. So these two are base elements in 0, 1. We have to take now, if these are base elements, so that means they are open in 0, 1. So under subspace topology, now since f is a function from x to 0, 1 and function is continuous, it is given that function is continuous. So the inverse image of base elements in 0, 1, inverse image of 0 to 1 and half to 1 are open in X. These sets will be open in X. So let us consider this open set be U and this open set be B. we'll show that U contains closed set A and V contains closed set B, and U and V are disjoint. We are going to show this. So we claim that A is contained in U and B is contained in V, and U intersection V is empty set. So U and V are disjoint. So to prove this, first of all, we'll show that A is contained in U. For that, let A be any element of A. This implies f of A is 0 because we are given that whole set closed set A is mapped on 0 set. So any element of A will map on 0. So f of A is 0 because A belongs to A. Now we know that 0 belongs to this interval. If 0 belongs to this interval, that means f of A belongs to this interval because f of A is equal to 0. So f of A belongs to this interval means A belongs to this set. So A belongs to capital A implies A belongs to this set. That means the whole set A will be contained in this set U because this set is ultimately U set. So A is containing, sorry, here it will be U. That will be U. Here it should be U. Similarly, we can show that B is subset of capital V. Now we'll show that U intersection V is empty set. Now U is actually this set and V is actually this set. Now this is equivalent to F inverse of intersection of 0 to half of open here, intersection open interval on this side half to 1. Clearly they are disjoint sets, so it will be an empty set. So it will be an empty set. So and in inverse measure of empty set is empty. So U intersection V are empty set, and also U contains A and V contains B. So this this fulfill all the requirements for the definition of normal set. So X is normal set. Now conversely, we come to the tougher part. If X is normal, we have to define a function which satisfy all the conditions of function that is given in the statement. So let a space be normal be given. Let A and B be two closed sets in X such that A intersection B is empty set. Now if A intersection B is empty set, so A will be contained in B complement, and also A and B are closed sets. So if B is closed set, then B complement will be open set. So there is a closed set containing open set. So open set B complement contains closed set A. Now since space is normal, now I'm going to use a theorem which is this theorem that I have already a little told you. This theorem: a space X tau is normal if and only if for all closed sets A and for all open sets U which contains A. For all closed set A and for open set U which contains A, there exists another open set V such that this closed set A will be contained in V and V will be contained in V closure, and V closure itself will be contained in open set U if X2 is normal. So in our situation, we are given that X space is normal, and here we have open set B complement and closed set A. So by using that theorem, there will exist an open set U which will contain closed set O, and which will be contained in U closure, and U closure will be contained in open set V complement. You have to remember this step because this will be used again and again. Now denote this set, this closed set A, this open set U, and this open set B complement by G0, G half, and G1. Here half is a Dedekind fraction respectively. So now this part can be represented by A by G0, Q by G half, and closure of G half, which will be contained in G1. B complement is G1. Now G0 set is closed set contained in open set G1 half. Again, a closed set G0 is contained in some open set G1 half, and again space is normal. And similarly, here this one G1 half is closed set that is contained in G1, and again space is normal. So we will use again this theorem. According to that theorem uh, that we have used earlier, so there will exist open sets G1 1 by 4 and G3 by 4 such that for closed sets G0 in G1 half, there will be open set G1 by 4 which contains closed set G0 and will be contained in its closure, and its closure will be contained in open set G1 half. Similarly, G1 by 2 is closed set that was contained in open set G1, so there will exist open set G3 by 4 which contained itself in G3 by 4 closure, and that will be containing open set G1. Similarly, we can again use this property. Here G0 is closed set, G1 by 4 is open set. So again we will use some another fraction between G0 and G1 by 4, that is G1 by 8, and again there it is, this is closed set contained in open set. Here we will also use another fraction between 1 by 4 and 1 by 2, that is G3 by 8, and so on. Continuing, this series will be a lengthy series between G0 and G1. We can find such open sets and such closed sets such that these subscripts belongs to fraction, dyadic fraction. If D denotes the set of dyadic fractions, and if T belongs to D, then we can find a dyadic fraction T such that G0 will be contained in GT and GT is contained in GT closure, and that will be contained in G1. Here T could be any dyadic fraction where GT is open set and T is less than S. If T is less than S, because a dyadic fraction is a ordered set, so if T is less than S, then GT closure will be contained in GS. Like here, because 5 by 8 is less than 3 by 4, 5 by 8 is less than 3 by 4, so G 5 by 8 closure is contained in G 3 by 4. So for any such two numbers, if T is less than N, then GT closure will be contained in GS. Now we will define a function. Now I'm going to define a function. Consider mapping f from x to 0, 1 such that fx is 1 if x belongs to G1. Here G1 is actually P complement. And if x does not belong to G1, then f of x is 1. If x belongs to G1, then fx will be equal to minimum of t such that x belongs to gt. If x belongs to g1, then look at here, if x belongs to g1, then certainly it may be in g7 by 8, also g7 by 8, g3 by 4, and so on up to g0. So we have to take minimum of the sets of these subscripts to which x belongs. So it will be minimum of t such that x belongs to all gt, all of the gt, जिन gt में भी x belong कर रहा है उनमें हमें सबसे minimum वाला subscript आपने लेना है direct fraction में से. And if x belongs to gt, if and only if f of x is less than equal to t, and x will belong to gt if and only if f of x is less than equal to t, because x is infimum of these parts, so fx will be less than equal to t. Now we'll first show that f of a is mapped on 0 and f of b is mapped on 1. Then we will show that f is continuous. So for showing this, where a and b are disjoint sets, so let b belongs to b be any element. Now if b belongs to b any element, this implies b is not contained in b complement, and b complement is actually g1, so b does not belong to g1 because b complement is g1. So if b does not belong to g1, now here take this definition, if x does not belong to g1, then f of x is equal to 1. So f of x, f of b will be equal to 1. So we can say that all color set b will be mapped on 1. Now we will show that f of a is mapped on 0. So let a belongs to a be any element. This implies a does not belong to b because a and b are disjoint sets. If a belongs to a, then a will not belong to b. If a does not belong to b, then a belongs to b complement. So this implies a belongs to g1, and also a is actually our g0 set. So a also belongs to g0. So as per the definition of f, if x belongs to gt, then f of x will be minimum of these subscripts. Here f of a will be minimum of 1 and 0, and that is certainly 0 is minimum, so f of a will be 0. So we can say that whole f of a is mapped on 0. Now we will show that f of a is continuous function. For this we will show that inverse image of base elements in 0, 1 are open in X. So first of all we need to find the base elements in 0, 1, then we'll show that their pre-image is open in X. Let two base elements in R, minus infinity to alpha and beta to beta, are base elements in R. Now taking their intersection with 0, 1, we will find the base elements in 0, 1. Now if alpha is less than 0, alpha is less than 0, then their intersection will be empty set, so we'll have this element. And if alpha is greater than 1, if greater than 1, then their intersection will be this set whole space. And if alpha is in between 0, 1, then their intersection will be this set. Similarly for this set, if beta is greater than 1, then the intersection will be empty set. If beta is less than 0, then their intersection will be whole space. If beta is in between 0, 1, then their intersection will be this space. So we will have such 4 elements in all type of the intersections in all cases. These are the base elements in 0, 1. Now we'll show that inverse image of these base elements is open in X. First of all, for empty set, inverse image of empty set is empty, which is always open in X. Similarly, the inverse image of 0, 1 will be the whole space X, which is also open in X. Now we'll prove that F inverse of 0 alpha and F inverse of beta 1 are also open in X. So it is enough to prove that F inverse of 0 alpha is union of open sets in X, where GT are open sets, and F inverse beta 1 is union of FT closure complement, because FT closure will be closed set and its complement will be again open. So it is again a union of open sets. So if we are able to prove these sets, then these sets will be open in X. Let for proving first part, first we'll show that this set is subset of this set, and then we'll show that this set is subset of this set, then they will be equal. So for showing this is subset of this, let P be any element of this set. This implies F of P belongs to 0 alpha. So if Fp belongs to 0 alpha, that means Fp is lies between 0 and alpha. So Fp is less than alpha. Now D is dense in 0, 1. Dedekind fractions are dense in 0, 1. So if Fp is less than alpha and Fp also belongs to 0, 1, so there exists a some fraction T belongs to D such that F of P will be less than T, T will be less than alpha. So between any two numbers, there will be some Dedekind fraction T. Now F of P less than T implies we here introduce T to use the definition of function that we have defined. Now if Fp is less than T, this implies P belongs to GT. Let me remind you this. So X belongs to GT if and only if F of X is less than equal to T. So if Fx is less than T, then X will belong to GT. So we are using this definition here. So F of P is less than T implies P will belongs to some GT, and T is less than alpha. Also T is less than alpha. So this implies if P belongs to some GT, then it will also belong to union of GT such that T is less than alpha. So this proves that this set is subset of union of these open sets. Now converse part, let Q be any element of this set. If Q belongs to some, that means Q belongs to some GT such that T is less than alpha. Now say Q belongs to GT1 where GT1 is less than alpha. So if Q belongs to GT1, this implies F of Q will be less than equal to T1 where T1 is also less than alpha. So this implies FQ will be less than alpha. And if FQ is less than alpha, this implies FQ will belongs to 0 to alpha. And this implies Q will belongs to F inverse 0 alpha. So every element of this set is contained in this set. So this set is subset of this set. So we can say that these sets are equal where GT are open in X. So that means as this set is union of open sets, so G inverse is also open in X. It is actually countable union because T represent a Dedekind fraction, which is a countable set. Now proving the second part, let L belongs to F inverse B beta 1 be any element. This implies F of L belongs to beta 1 And if FL belongs to beta 1, that means FL will be greater than beta. Now again, as a D is a dense in 0, 1, and there exist two numbers. Here we are considering two numbers. S1, S2 belongs to D such that beta is less than S2, which is less than S1, and which is less than F of L. Now, why we have taken two elements, you will come to know. Now, F of L is greater than S1. This implies FL is greater than S1. This implies F of L is not less than equal to S1. So if F of L is not less than equal to S1, this implies L will not belong to G of S1 by definition of F. Now, if L does not belong to G of S1, and as S2 is less than S1, so GS2 closure will be contained in open set GS1, because S2 is less than S1, so GS2 closure will be contained in GS1. Now, if L does not belong to GS1, that means it will not also belong to GS2 closure. And if it does not belong to its closure, that means L will belongs to GS2's complement. Now here GS2 closure is closed, but it's complementary open set. So L belongs to this set. So we can say that L belongs to this union of complement of closures of GT, where T is greater than beta. Now so this implies this set will be contained in this set. Now we show that this is contained in this set, then both will be equal. Now let M is any element of this set. Now M belongs to some GT closure complement. If it is in its union, then it will clearly belongs to some set. Let's say that it belongs to GT2 complement, where T2 is greater than beta. Now this implies if M belongs to G2 closure complement, M does not belong to G2 closure, where T2 is greater than beta. Now this implies if M does not belong to G2 closure, so it will not belong to G2 also, because G2 is contained in G2 closure. So M will not belong to T2, and T2 is greater than B. This implies if M does not belong to G22, that means F of M will not be less than equal to T2, and T2 is greater than beta. That condition is always there. Now this implies F of M, if F of M is not less than equal to F2, that means M of M will be greater than T2, and T2 is greater than beta. So combining these conditions, we have F of M is greater than beta. Now if F of M is greater than beta, that means F of M belongs to beta to 1. And this implies M belongs to F inverse beta to 1. So clearly this set is contained in this set. So both set will be equal. So F is continuous function. So this is whole.